I'm gonna teach you 5 tips how to sound design like a pro, and as an example we're gonna use this sequence. How's it going? My name is Jussi and this channel is all about filmmaking tips, tutorials and reviews. So all the sound that you heard in the sequence were sound effects and music. No audio was recorded during filming. Now, real quick before we move forward, there are 3 different types of sound effects that you should mainly use. Ambient sounds, Foley sounds and effect sounds. Ambient sounds are kind of like background sounds that are the foundation for the whole sound design. Foley sounds are these obvious sounds that come from a certain action. For example, if I clap my hands, that's a Foley sound. And effect sounds are these sounds that are meant to accentuate certain actions. For example, these swoosh sounds or impact sounds. Also, one more thing, don't make the sound effects too loud, keep them very subtle, otherwise it will only sound amateur and distract the viewer. Okay, now that all of that is out of the way, let's move forward and jump right into the timeline. Okay, so here's the timeline of the sequence, and as you can see, I've colored and labeled all of the sound effects with a different label color. And these mango colored ones are the ambient sounds and the yellow ones are the actual music, and these 2 magenta colors are the actual effect sounds, and then here all of these green colors are the Foley sounds, which are the actual effect sounds. And then there's 2 exceptions, these 2 blue ones, which I'll get back to a little bit later in this video. So in the opening shot, the character is already in the elevator. So let's watch a part of it and then discuss a little bit about the sound design. Okay, so that was a very short clip, but here we've got the ambient sound, which is called elevator door closes. Obviously I cut the part where the door closes away and just used the ambient sound of the elevator. And this is what it sounds like. Then we've got the 2 Foley sounds, and in the first one Alex presses the elevator button and it sounds like this. Just a very basic elevator button pressing sound effect. And in the next sound effect you can clearly see from the visuals that Alex is chewing gum. So I wanted to put that chewing gum effect there, but I didn't want it to be too loud and too obvious. I want it to be very subtle. So this is what it sounds like. Just a very subtle sound. Okay, so let's watch the next part of the sequence and move on to my first pro tip. Okay, so you might have noticed from the timeline that I stacked several different sound effects on top of each other. And that's actually my first pro tip. Try to stack several different sound effects on top of each other, and they don't necessarily have to be exactly the same kind of sound effects. And as a matter of fact, it's actually maybe better if they're not all exactly the same and they're a little bit different with different nuances, because that makes the sound design more immersive and makes it sound more realistic. Okay, so let's have a closer look at what I actually did with the Foley sounds when I stacked them on top of each other in this particular part of the sequence. So, first of all, here we have on the first upper layer the sound effect called cloth baggy pants rustling, and this is what it sounds like. So just a very basic sound effect of some fabric and Alex touching his clothing and his jacket. And then here underneath that we have this sound effect of the keys in Alex's pockets. And this is what it sounds. And then here we have 4 different sound effects next to each other, which are actually 4 different parts from the same sound effect audio file, because I wanted to use 4 different sounds instead of using one sound and looping it over and over again to make it sound more realistic. And these sound effects are actually called cloth leather jacket quickly moving arms around. And it doesn't actually matter whether or not Alex is actually wearing a leather jacket or some other jacket, because as long as the sound fits the visuals and it sounds realistic, it doesn't matter. It can basically be any sound as long as your brains connect to what they see and what they hear. And this is what it sounds like. Actually, there are 2 other sound effects underneath those 4 leather jacket sound effects. Those are this one and this. And those are actually snippets from the exact same leather jacket audio file as those 4 previous ones, because I wanted to have a sound every time Alex slaps himself and tries to find something from his pockets. Alright, let's jump back into the timeline and move on to the next tips. Did you see the part where Alex opened the door? Did you notice something? Let's play it back one more time. So you might have noticed that the audio of the next scene arrived before the image, and this is called a J-cut. A J-cut is a great segue from the previous scene to the next scene in a smooth way. And in this particular shot, it helped to tell the story of the door opening without actually showing the whole clip from the very beginning to the ending, because it was in slow motion and the whole clip would have been too long. If we scrub through the footage on the timeline, we can see that the click of the door opening starts already here, and the footage of the door opening starts only here. So that's the J-cut. My next tip is sometimes it's better to record your own sound effects. Let me explain. 99% of the time I use all of my sound effects from Artlist, but in this situation where Alex opened the door, I found that it's easier for me to just pick up my Sony a6500, put on my Rode Video Micro microphone and rely on my Sony cameras, preamps and record the sound effects myself, because it turns out that there are thousands of different door sounds, whether you're going for a friendly door opening or a horror movie type of door opening. So in this situation, I found that my method of recording it myself was easier to find the exact kind of door opening sound that would come from the actual door, because it did come from the actual door that we were filming. And I found that it was a lot faster for me to do that myself than to scroll through all of the thousands of possibilities that there are for door opening sounds. So I actually recorded two separate sounds for the door opening: the click of the door lock and the door opening, and the creaking of the hinge of the door. So here's the first sound. So that was the click, and here's the other sound. Now you might be wondering, how come they sound so good if you recorded them yourself? Well, this leads to the next point and my next tip. Edit your sound effects. Whether it's your own recorded sound effect or a sound effect that you found, for example, from Artlist. So what I did for the audios that I recorded myself, I basically clicked first here, and then I went here to Effects and Presets, and I actually use Matti Haapoja's audio preset pack, and I selected this Just Right / Foley Cleanup preset, and then I just dragged it and dropped it on top of the audio clip. I'm not gonna drag it again because it's already there. And the next step that I did was I went here to Essential Sound and I selected Reverb and Heavy Reverb. My next tip is one of the most important tips that I can give you. Do your sound design both in a way that it works with just the music and with just the sound design. And when you combine the sound design with the music, that's when you get the most immersive and powerful result. So, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, subscribe to my channel and click the bell notification so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Also, if you want to learn more, watch this video over here or this video over here, because I'm pretty sure you're gonna enjoy either one of them. Okay. Thanks for watching and see you again next time. Take care.